This is the Centurion Leadership Battalion show with Justin Bizzarro. I'm Justin Bizzarro. I'm your host. That's Bizzarro. For anyone who's out there, thank you for supporting us. Thank you for listening in. Thank you for your endless contributions to the show. We have started seeing some numbers as we re-release, so that's pretty cool. I think we're like one episode in, or 2 episodes in maybe, which is pretty cool, seeing the gain. As we're doing this, I try not to get attached to the outcome, so I'm not looking at any of the podcast numbers. I'm just being told what's going on, and I do glance here and there, but I am trying to do it for the right reasons, trying to get the message out there and do it for the positivity that I believe in needs to pollinate this world. So that is the main reason I do all the podcasts. That's the main reason I'm working so hard, working on a TV show. I'm doing all the things that we're doing is because I believe that the very short time we have here on this planet that we can make a huge difference. And we can influence positively the world after us and legacies and humans in our planet. So the topic today is a part 2. It's an extension of a previous episode, maybe about 2 weeks ago, I guess, whenever we release it. I'm not sure yet. I know we stuck a few episodes weirdly in between here and there as I was recording to come back to this, because I really had to do some soul searching. I had to look at myself. I had to work in my groups and some therapy just to understand and ask these questions, because I think that this is one of those things that is just kind of crazy. Anxiety and depression, I think, lead to a lot of low self-esteem in life. And imposter syndrome can be a part of that. I think we throw the term around a lot as entrepreneurs, but we don't realize how serious it is. That's part of the reason I want to talk about it. It is a very serious thing. It does happen to us. It has happened to me. It is alarming that the low consciousness and almost neuroticism that can happen when the imposter syndrome starts taking a hold of them, even though there's great achievements or they are achieving great things, they can be exaggerated because this individual is so needing of that achievement because that's how they got attention or they got affection growing up. So one of the things I'm going to talk about today is the causes of imposter syndrome. One, because I think it's good for all of us on this show to notice what they look like, to identify them in other people and help them. But I think more importantly, it's so we don't do it to other people. We don't do it to our kids. And we don't get them to a point of negative emotions and stress, which is called as neurotic anxiety, especially high-functioning individuals, especially individuals that are on any sort of spectrum of autism. This kind of imposter syndrome can play a major role, and they don't even realize it's going on because all they want is attention and affection, and they're willing to mimic whatever they have to get it. And it leaves them very lost. They lose their identity. They lose their personalities. They lose their happiness. They lose their purpose, their value in giving. When other people don't see it or see the achievement or see what they're trying to do, that can become pretty hard. And often when they look to those who love them the most, appreciate them the most, and quote-unquote care for them the most, often those, when you're going through a major imposter syndrome that turns into almost neuroticism, anxiety, and depression, many people do the opposite of what needs to be done, which is give you the love, support, and confidence and help you find a way to gain it back. A lot of people, I think, double down. They add a lot of stressors, and the stressful situation becomes worse. And that person eventually cracks. They eventually have an identity crisis. They eventually start saying things or doing things or think things will make them happy if they just do more. Even though that's not really what's going on. The reality is they need to ground themselves. They need to find a group or a therapist or somewhere to go, a 12-step program that helps them through this. Because it is a very serious thing, and it's not something that people need to joke around on social media. I saw this again the other day. Someone's just like going into a meeting to get an award, and they're like, oh, I have imposter syndrome. It's not really what it is. And someone who's gone through it, I can tell you that you shouldn't disrespect that term. And you shouldn't talk about it publicly unless you're really aware to understand the mental consequences that a lot of people have. And if you're going to talk about it, you should be willing to help those that haven't not talk about it. Okay? And if you're going to talk about it, how do we get through it? It's the only reason I'm talking about it. I've had major success in my life. I've had so much achievement, so much school, but I often found myself, especially over a few years, where my family dynamics changed, my relationships changed, and I wasn't getting the attention and the approval and recognition of success that I wanted and achievements I was completing, you know? And so where does this start? Okay. I'm just going to read it off. I'm using a website called choosingtherapy.com. Okay. This is what was given to me on the causes of imposter syndrome when I have asked someone. Numerous people have given me different things, but this one I find to be the most common. So I'm just going to read it. I'll put a link at the bottom of the page as well in our notes, just because I didn't create this information. I'm not a therapist. I don't write about therapy. However, I can share therapy or group therapy from my personal point of view. And as a leader, I believe that my experiences will help lead others. I am not attached to the outcome. I have no hopes of being president of the United States or changing the world in that way. I believe that if I'm true to myself, I will change the world in that way it needs to be done. And imposter syndrome is not a way to do it. So I'm going to read, okay? Number one reason for imposter syndrome is the childhood experiences and family culture. Social conditioning begins at an early age, and there is some research to suggest that early childhood experiences involving family could contribute to imposter syndrome. Children who have had to assume parental roles or responsibilities at a young age have shown to be more susceptible to imposter syndrome, as have children who did not have a strong and secure bond with their parents. A lack of positive reinforcement and praise in childhood can also increase the likelihood of developing imposter syndrome, leading children to develop unhealthy beliefs about achievement. Okay, so a lot of people that are addicted to achievement out there for this reason and are suffering from imposter syndrome. It's not the achievement addiction that's the problem, it's the imposter syndrome. Okay, the achievement addiction is the symptom. The problem is the imposter syndrome, which goes back to the problem of not feeling good enough. So maybe it's a symptom of a symptom because of a spiritual malady and an insecurity. But let's just think about that, okay? Like, how are our parents reinforcing us? Do they believe in us? Do they give us love? Is it only about the achievement where we receive love and attention? If we have a failure in our life, do our parents shun us or push us away or blame us? When we were growing up, did we have to take care of our family, our brothers, our sisters, because we grew up in an environment that was that way? Or maybe it was a bad environment and we had to do it and be the rescue, the protector, the provider, the calm one, the one who brought peace to everyone, the one who would often take their identity and put it aside so they could be the person that brought calmness, love, kindness. You know, part of what happens, I believe, in part of this is that you have to be so good to overcome such bad that sometimes you have to exaggerate, particularly in families that minimize it. And that exaggeration can lead to horrible consequences, as we're talking about, being an imposter. Number 2, workplace influences on imposter syndrome. While there isn't evidence that specific kinds of jobs or work environments cause imposter syndrome, certain workplace factors can decrease the likelihood of employees experiencing this issue. For example, a collaborative working culture with strong and supportive leaders decreases the likelihood of imposterism, as do work cultures that encourage risk-taking, mistakes, and controlled failure, a chance to learn from and progress after failures in employees. Imposter syndrome is also highly prevalent in universities, which could be the result of overemphasis on intellectual ability, grades, and academic performances. So, I will say that it can be hard. It can be difficult. It can be disorienting. We have a lot of things going on in our lives and a lot of hardships. But we need to figure out how to deal with them, and I think that our work environment, it's our job as managers and entrepreneurs and leaders to make sure this doesn't happen to our employees. This doesn't happen to the individuals that work in our businesses. This doesn't happen to our kids at universities and schools, because it is a growing problem, and more people need that validation, need that thing on their resume, need support, need comforting, because more and more we don't know how to get it on our own because we gave away trophies to everyone. When you give away trophies to everyone, we ruin culture. Everyone thinks that they win for doing nothing, and then when they work hard and still receive nothing, they start pushing harder, exaggerating, doing whatever. Okay. Number 3, the need for external validation. Unfortunately, the shame imposters feel tend to push them to withdraw and hide from others, leading them to feel isolated instead of accepted. People with imposter syndrome often struggle with shame and low self-worth and are unable to internally validate themselves, which might lead them to look for internal forms of validation. They tend to look for this validation in their professional achievements, but unfortunately are usually unable to actually internalize this validation when they do succeed. I've been there. I have very trouble validating scoring a goal because I always think there's more, that it's never going to be enough, that I have to win again the next day, that I'm going to have to constantly win, that it's just a taste. Okay, I'm not saying that that's bad, but I do feel that a lot of people, including myself, do a lot of things because it used to give us validation, make us feel human, make us feel that we were doing the right thing, that we had purpose. And when we no longer received validation for our achievements, it became very hard, especially if we failed at something and then all the achievements we had before are null and void. It's very hard. It's not an easy path, and we often work really hard to achieve things before and see things in ourselves that no one else has. So in that case, there is imposter syndrome. We believe in ourselves more than anyone else. You just got to be careful. It's about building your confidence and self-esteem so you're allowing yourself and enabling yourself to enjoy your achievements, honestly. Those are the major things. I think that there's a lot of things that we can talk a little bit about, what impacts imposter syndrome has on mental health. Maybe we talked about it before, but the first one is dysfunctional life or dysfunction and potential for suicidal thoughts. Okay. Imposter syndrome can also have harmful effects on physical health and social functioning. Adolescents who report an imposter syndrome are more likely to report having suicidal thoughts or attempts, suggesting it may be especially detrimental to young people. I would also say people that are trying to grow, trying to find purpose. I know that it was tough for me. I know the thoughts that were in my head. I know what that's like. I know you don't want to live. You don't want to come out of the bathroom. You don't want to face the world, and every day you face it hoping that you're doing the right thing or there will be some validation there. But instead, the more you go down this in imposter syndrome, the less you believe in yourself, the less other people believe in you, as we talked about. And what is the problem when you no longer believe in yourself? There's a lot of burning out. I find that when you have imposter syndrome, that you're working 24/7, working all the time, working days and nights, daytime shift, nighttime shift. And as an entrepreneur, you're working every direction. As a leader, you're working every direction because you're hoping to get the approval of someone, hoping to get an achievement somewhere to validate all the work you've put in and all the effort and everything who you are, because you see yourself as doing good in the world, or you see yourself as doing better for the world and no one else sees it. It's a pretty hard place to be. I will also say that imposter syndrome causes you to miss advancements in your life. It's because we no longer can recognize that we deserve them or that the opportunities are there. if you think that you don't deserve it and that you're a fraud and that everything in your life was because of someone else and the achievements you made was because of someone else, then you're going to miss the opportunities that are right in front of you. Sometimes take the wrong opportunities. Sometimes end up in a really bad situation that's testing you to see whether you're not as bad as everyone says you are or you think you are. Okay, because part of imposter syndrome is also needing to achieve things to prove to people who you know you are. We often do that as adults, the high-functioning ones, the ones who work really hard, who have achieved things over little wins over a lifetime. When no one else sees it, or you go from wins to losses, those downward periods are very hard. We often find imposter syndrome in there. People with imposter syndrome self-sabotage, intensely passing up opportunities, ruining their chances, or quitting just before they accomplish their goals. Okay? You don't even realize it's happening to you. You may be someone suffering from it. You may be giving up opportunities because you think you're doing the right thing for your family or your friends. But the reality is you're just suffering from something. I know it was true for me. I gave up a lot of advancement. I gave up a lot of opportunities outside my company because I had this image in my head that I was supposed to be someone that I had dreamed of for 25 years. You know, and without proper support, groups, mentors, defining success truly. It's why I ask the question of every single person that comes on the Justin the Food Entrepreneur Show and every person that comes on the Justin Ryan Bizzarro Show. All those entrepreneurs, I ask them to define their meaning of success, to ground them. Even if it doesn't come up on the show, I do it because I believe in them and I love them and I want them to have a better life than I did. I want them to have more opportunities to grow and grow the people around them than I have. And that's really defining success, what it truly means to you. And that way your achievements are true to you, not because you're trying to do it for someone else. Okay, or get someone else's approval. Believe me, I know what that is. I wanted more than anything for the people around me to be happy and have peace of mind. Even went out of my way to do it, to ensure it. But I lost myself in the process. I lost my businesses in the process, regardless of how good or bad it turned out. My definition of success is that I lost family and I lost friends. Because I didn't know that I was sabotaging my life, because I wasn't getting things that I wanted, because that I had worked hard for, that I dreamed of my whole life. And not to mention, it's hard when you see yourself differently than everyone else does, or people are painting a false image on you, or a false image of a male or female they had once known in their life, and then putting it on you. Projecting it on you, that can lead to huge identity crisis. As well as what we're talking about here, which is imposter syndrome. Am I faking to be a good person and all the bad things this person says about me is true? I find this in romance a lot. People who truly fall in love, everyone is quick to report 1,000 problems with that person when that person outside of it, and they're just dealing with something. They're a loving, kind, generous couple. They're just going through something hard. And everyone wants to blame something or say it's some extreme. The reality is maybe they're just going through a hard time. Maybe the other person's got something mental they have to go deal with so they can be a better whole person for that couple. I'm just saying, don't be so quick to judge, guys, and don't be so quick to victimize people or take a side. Because it's more to things than we understand, and it's not just about sex. It's not just about friendship. It's not just about quick things that happen. Nothing happens overnight. It's usually death by 1,000 cuts. And unfortunately, when you suffer from imposter syndrome, every time someone criticizes you, every time someone comes down on you, even though you need to be able to take criticism, you can't do it anymore in that state. You've lost everything. You thought you were someone you were not. You lived a life of achievement and having things come to you easily. You lived a life of being able to do things within society and having success. And it doesn't always happen, particularly when we go through things like COVID. And then surround yourself with people with massive success like we do in the United States, and it can be pretty horrible knowing that you should be a successful person or needing to have success and everyone else around you is, but you're not. Or maybe you once had it and it was awesome, and then life changed and you chose a relationship and you chose a family, and maybe that a lot of that success disappeared in the way that you define it. But I will tell you that if you want to get rid of imposter syndrome, you got to stop relying on the negative thoughts about yourself that normally other people reinforce or have given you in the first place. The negative thoughts in your head are generally put there by other people. We are not born with them. I can tell you right now. I've spent a lot of time with my cousin's kids, and they are children. And there is not negativity in there. And the only things that they imitate that are bad are what their parents are doing. Like they're spitting images of it, honestly. And it's weird how you can see it from the outside, but you can't see it from the inside of a family. So, there's got to be problem solving. There's, Deborah did a great job with Zoe and Maddie on this a lot of the time. And just what is it that you would do, and having them own the success, own their achievements, and never putting too much on them. Balancing out a very hard standard with a very soft approach. Learn. It's your life. Learn. The world is yours. And one of the things that I think is we need to recognize our accomplishments. What have we accomplished? How have we done those things? One of the things I will also say is someone who's on social media all the time because of the podcast and everything else, you got to limit looking at other people. If you're not going to support them positively, don't compare yourself to them, because that does lead to the same thing. If you're in entrepreneur groups, don't compare yourself to the other people in the group. Just be working on you. Don't ever say you got lucky, because you didn't. You've worked for everything you've had. That word is wrong. And when other people say you're lucky, it's not true. They have no idea what you were born into or how you're born, and maybe it's quote unquote better than someone else, but they don't know your struggle. Maybe they couldn't deal with what you dealt with. Just because you're born with more or less doesn't mean that you're immune to anything that we're talking about. Imposter syndrome, and this which leads into identity crisis. Okay? You need to surround yourself with people that believe in you the way you believe in them. You need to surround yourself with great people. Why is it important that we surround ourselves with great people? Because great people make us better. We'll talk about that in another podcast too. It's scheduled to release before the identity crisis one, which I already recorded. Interestingly, both of those, they're just a little bit out of order as I record this one. We've got to see our talent. We have to recognize ourselves. And when we win, lose, or draw, we have to give ourselves credit. But obviously the next day it is starting all over again. Because we win today doesn't mean we win tomorrow. However, if we look in the rearview mirror, we have a lot of successes. And if we do random acts of kindness and get out of ourselves and help people just for the sake of helping them, not because there's benefit or financial benefit, just because we're detached to the outcome and we know it's good for the universe, you will help battle this as well. Random acts of kindness are a part of who we are. That's why all STEP programs use it as a way to anchor the humans. You're having a bad day. You're not sure. You may go do your drug of choice or your alcohol of choice. Do a random act of kindness. Get out of yourself for 5 minutes. Okay? One of the things that alcoholics and drug addicts go through when they get clean is the imposter syndrome. Are they still the same person that they were? They identified themselves as this previous person, and now they go to a new person. That's why they do 90 days in the program in a row, because they need to start identifying themselves as who they are. An addict, a drug addict, an alcoholic, whatever it is, sex addict. I don't know what else are out there, but there's lots of addicts. Eating addict. Okay, food, drink, sex, drugs, all those things. They allow us to mask who we are and create an imposter of ourselves. And in that process, we are trying to find out truly who we are and be humbled and recognize that we are who we are, and then we gain achievements from it. That doesn't mean don't dream big. And an imposter syndrome is not someone who dreams about something, envisions something that's out of the ordinary, or people call them crazy because they have a big dream. Okay? It can eventually lead to imposter syndrome if everyone keeps knocking them down and telling them that they're never going to achieve the dream, even though this dream or this seed has been instilled in them. But for the most part, I would say that you shouldn't let fear hold you back from achieving your dreams. You need to reinforce yourself positively and say the same positive things to you as you would to someone else. You need to engage in problem solving. Stop sitting back and thinking this stuff happened to you. Everything's another fucking growing opportunity. Get with it. Grow. I know I had to do it. It wasn't pretty. It was not pretty, me going through all this. But I am a better person because of it. I'm a better leader. I'm a better entrepreneur. You know, everyone makes mistakes. Everyone needs mentors, coaches, and teachers. Start trusting yourself and building trust with yourself, and others will build trust in you also. Start being the person that you are, not the person you want to be. The person you want to be is a vision of where you want to get to. And if it's a better person, focusing on today and not who you were or what you think you are versus who you are, or creating an illusion for people, doesn't do anything other than cause problems and sadness and ruin relationships. Define what makes you successful. Define success. What does it mean to you? Because if you don't, this step becomes really hard. And choose your thoughts wisely. If you have negative thoughts, do not let them ruminate in your head. Start talking about positive things. Same in relationships. When relationships start thinking negatively about the other person and not about the positive memories, the relationship's gone. That person has so much anger and resentment that they allowed to creep in. It isn't the other person's fault. If they blame them, they can blame them over, love and romance and money. But the reality is you can only own your own side of the street. You can only keep your side of the street clean. You can't be responsible for someone else and you. You can only be responsible for you. Selfish as that sounds. Talking about your mental space, that doesn't mean I don't take care of people. That doesn't make sure I'm there okay, but I make sure that their lessons are theirs, not mine. And if they ask for advice or opinions, then I give it, but not beforehand. I do not open up unless someone opens up to me, generally. It's part of being a leader. You're too vulnerable like I've been in the past, or you let too much out, people use it against you. They record it, they come after you. They put you in newspapers, all the fucking crazy shit that happens when you're a leader, and everyone wants to blame you. But the reality is they should blame themselves. Everyone plays a part in every disaster. Everyone plays a part in every success. It's just which part are you playing? Are you on the good side of success, or are you on the bad side of success? Are you on the good side of a loss, or are you on the bad side of a loss? What did you do your best to make sure it didn't happen? And once it's happened, did you grow from it immensely? Choose your people you surround yourself with. Great people need to be surrounded by great people. You want to be a great person, constantly surround yourself by great people. Change your friend groups, change your family, change whatever. Because if you have negativity, someone who's constantly criticizing you, someone who's constantly blaming you, even if it's not your fault, you're never going to get out of this cycle. You're never going to stop believing that you're negative, or that you don't deserve your achievements, because that person will echo in your head all the time. And if you can't get them to stop, set a boundary. I don't want to talk about this. If they love you and care about you, no matter what's going on with them, they'll see that this is detrimental to you, that it will cause you extreme harm. Because this imposter syndrome is very bad. It leads people to wanting to die, no matter how much success they have in their life, especially those who have achievement and don't feel that they're getting recognition from it, or they're with someone that's always putting them down or criticizing them. It's going to happen because all the success doesn't feel like theirs, even when they have it, especially for the high functioning, especially for those on a spectrum of autism, like I said. You've got to be careful. The gifted individuals that are all of us that are probably listening to this podcast, we can do it to other people just like maybe we're going through it now. So it's not only about fixing us, it's also about making sure that we provide a positive environment for those to thrive around us so they don't have to go through what we've been through. Thank you, everyone, for listening in. This is the Centurion Leadership Battalion Show with Justin Bizzarro. You can find us on Spotify or wherever else you grow yourself through podcasts. You can also find us at centurion.battalion on Instagram, as well as find me on Instagram or Facebook at Justin Bizzarro, Bizzarro. Thank you, everyone, and we're out.